What's up, dudes and dudettes? I'm Seth, THB Brigade, guiding you through the world of Drang Lake here in Dark Souls 2, episode 4. As you can see, I am rocking the Drang Lake shield now. I bumped my strength up to 16. It's a lot higher than I probably should have it for this build, but I like the 100% shield, and having a good 100% shield is the easiest way to honestly go through the game. And since we're trying to give you a guide here, figured I might as well do it the way that would be easiest. We are now going to go to Heides Tower of Flame. To get there, you gotta go the opposite direction of the Forest of Giants, which is the way we are going here. Sorry. It's something I had to do there. My guy's walking into walls. This here is the Crimson Parma. It is pretty much useless, but it's there in case you want to use it. Alright. Interesting thing about Dark Souls 2 compared to Dark Souls 1. The cartography of Dark Souls 2 is not continuous. Cartography? No, topography. Yeah. It's not continuous like Dark Souls 1 was. There are discrepancies. I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure they had a reason for it. I mean, you'll notice the skyboxes are literally painted on. They don't move. They're just there. I don't know if they decided to do that on purpose, or if they got somewhat through development and realized they'd made mistakes and just didn't want to change it. But it is not continuous, and trying to draw conclusions from it is not a useful practice, because it's just, things are not continuous. Oh, I didn't kill him. That would have been bad, that spell. There will be some examples later on to give you a good illustration of what I'm talking about, like this bonfire here. But for instance, we obviously didn't travel very far, but as you can see, Majula, well, actually you can't see Majula. You kinda can. Majula, there's the stone up there, the death stone, as I call it. We should have had to go a lot further than we did to reach this place. But such is life, and such is game. Forgot about that third attack. Start off these videos really roughly. Sublime Bone Dust. This is an interesting item, and one of the reasons I think there's been such a long interlude between Dark Souls 1 and 2. Charred Ashen Bones, cast them into the Farfire Majula to increase the HP restored with each use of your flask. They say these are the remains of a saint who cast himself into the bonfire, but we will never know for sure, for soot and ashes tell no story. A lot of people think that the charred bone dust is essentially the bone dust of the player character from Dark Souls 1. However, I think it's unlikely that it's just the character from Dark Souls 1. I believe you can get 5 bone dust, or, well, lore speaking, you're supposed to be able to get 5 bone dust in a playthrough. Obviously I'm not counting like New Game Plus, things like that. They're all spread out over a pretty wide area, which makes me think that it's not the same person. That it's not the, at least they aren't all from the player character in Dark Souls 1. Rather, I think various quote-unquote saints have cast themselves into the fire since Dark Souls 1. since each revolution of the kindling and the going out and the kindling, the Age of Fire, the Age of Dark, seemed to be about 1,000 years, I'm of the opinion then that we are standing about 5,000 years post Dark Souls 1. Oh, you did not hit me with that. That is garbage. Alright. The guys are nice enough to not fight you all at once. But after you kill one, these two dudes say to hell with honor, and they all go try to get you. Be very, very careful if you do what I do, fighting on this bridge here. It's not really very safe, and honestly, it's pretty stupid. Actually, I probably shouldn't do it. Oh, I thought I had him. Oh gosh, I did it. I fell off. Ah, that was dumb of me. I shouldn't have fought them there. It's actually the first time I've ever fallen off on the bridge. I've actually never fallen off there before. Alright, humanity up. This actually isn't a bad place to summon somebody if you are having trouble with the area. Huh. Come on. I tell you, sometimes, I don't know how many times I've had guys with 1 or 2 health left in this game. It gets frustrating. Alright, so I said earlier, in one of the earlier videos, I should say, Heides appears to have sunk into the ocean. It's not a guess. There is some equipment that pretty much says Heides sunk into the sea. The question is, what caused it? In-game, I'm not aware of anything that makes it known what caused this sort of quote-unquote cataclysm. But if I were to guess, no, I don't think it's the giants that came. If I were to guess, well, even as I think about it, even as I'm getting ready to say it, I'm beginning to think that probably isn't true. Oh, come on. I was going to say actually that I thought the demons might have had something to play. But now that I say it out loud, I realize that the demons actually have been pretty much dormant in Dark Souls 2. Alright, I'm gonna fight these guys in here this time. Oh. They don't usually do that last attack there when they quote-unquote missed you. Yeah, I should have bought him in the room the first time. Whatever. Whatever the cataclysm was, Heides is sunk into the sea. It was obviously above ground. The same appears to, whatever cataclysm it was, appears to have sunk a great chunk of the landmass here. It's possible that most of what was Lordran in Dark Souls 1 actually is in the ocean. I don't know how far I'd go with that theory because I don't know what I could use to support it, but most of it I think is gone. Most of this area is gone into the sea from something. And if anyone has any ideas what it was, I'd love to hear them. I mean, I'm curious just as much as the next guy. it up any longer. We summon Masterless Glencore. Masterless Glencore is actually an NPC. Who's this dude? Oh, that's nobody. He is actually an NPC who can help you whether you're online or offline. There are 3 green blossoms in that chest over there. I don't want them. I don't care about them. But if you want them, they're easy to get. There's actually, if you go through that boss fog down there, you'll fight the Dragon Rider. But he's a really easy boss. And I don't want to use Glencore for him. I want to use Glencore for the boss up here. Who is the boss up here? Well, you just have to wait and see, won't you? Glencore is no weakling. He's certainly not the strongest NPC in the game, but he packs a punch. See, my 100% shield is already coming in handy. Got his last attack there. I really do recommend, if you're first time through, summoning some guys, whether they be Masterless Glencore or human NPC, or not NPCs, I guess, just human characters. Summoning help can be very, very useful in the area. Divine Blessing. Here's an interesting thing to note. Holy water endowed with a divine blessing cures status effects and fully restores HP. Water blessed by an ancient goddess. Her name is long forgotten, and the Magic Academy of Melphia denies even her existence. Oh, there was actually a little more of that. In any age, there are those who refuse to see reason. It is their meddling that distorts the truth. In Dark Souls 1, the divine water tells you that Guinevere is the one who blessed it. Here we are in Dark Souls 2, and they don't even remember her name. So far gone are they from that time period. Another reason to think that a very, very long time has passed. I mean, it's one thing to no longer say worship Guinevere. That's one thing. But to not even remember her name. I mean, that is... It's gotta be a long ways removed. Alright, let me show you guys. See that? See that architecture? Notice anything familiar about that? You do? Why? Oh, because it looks almost exactly like Anne Orlando from the first game? Well, it does. Here's the thing, this is probably almost certainly not Anne Orlando. That being said, the architecture is way too similar to pass it off as What are you doing, Glencore? The architecture is way too similar to pass it off as coincidence. We know in Dark Souls 1 that Guinevere ran off with the Flame God, fled Anne Orlando with him. Could this be where they went? I mean, the architecture is similar. You see this flame tower up here, a lighthouse. That's what Heides Tower Flame refers to, a lighthouse, obviously. But you have this lighthouse here with flame, playing connection to fire. I think it fits really well that this is where Guinevere ran off to when she fled Anne Orlando. It may not have been called Hyde at the time. They may have called it something else and it became Hyde later. Or Hyde may refer to the actual area beyond this little area here. Because this area has a very Anne Orlando feel to it. But if you look out there, the ruins have a more basic architecture. Very human architecture, if you will. And it's very possible that this area was built by the gods, so to speak, and humans expanded on it. Alright, let's go see an old friend. Old Dragon Slayer. Look familiar? Should. This is Ornstein. We all remember Ornstein, right? He even has the same moveset from the first game, except for a noticeable difference. His lightning attacks are now all dark. What has happened to our friend Ornstein? He's become dark. And just like in the first game, he's actually really easy when he's by himself, just like he was when you're fighting Ornstein and Smo. Come on. Ooh, he almost got me there. This is actually one of those fights where summoning an NPC may not help you. If you're good at dodging, or if you have a good 100% shield, Ornstein's really not hard. But having someone else to take the brunt of his attacks, Glencord is a... Oop, no, I gotta get out of here. Glencord does a pretty good job of keeping his ire, so to speak. Pretty good boss music. Alright, you don't want to get hit by that. Oh no, oh no. That is bad. Rapier's a risk. I need to let Glencour finish things off here. Or not. I got it. Alright. So, interesting tidbit 2. Ornstein's in the cathedral. Why would Ornstein be here? Oh, I mean, we could just say that he was wandering the land after his defeat by the first chosen undead. That's possible. Seems more likely to me, though, after discovering Guinevere in Anor Londo was actually a fake, he went out to find the real Guinevere, and in doing so came here, found her, and just stayed. Guinevere herself probably is long gone if no one remembers her name, but maybe he didn't care anymore. Maybe he was done. He's obviously possessed by dark now. So something has probably happened to corrupt him. And all he remembers is that Guinevere was here, so he should protect the place. Sort of like in Dark Souls 1, where he was just there protecting the place. The old Dragon Slayer is reminiscent of a certain knight that appears in old legends. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Actually, that is all that it says. But we killed him mainly for his ring, the old Leo ring. The beloved ring of a dragon-slaying knight strengthens thrust weapon counterattack. After many years of use, the ring's face has worn down, but close inspection reveals an engraved lion. Obviously, this is Ornstein's ring from Dark Souls 1, which, since I'm using a rapier, is very useful. Another thing to note here, you see these sort of dark splotches on the ground. That's not moss. That is actually dark staining. That's something you find common in areas corrupted by dark. I also find it strange that this is where you meet Targray of the Blue Sentinels. Now, we have nothing to do with him right now because we don't have a token of fidelity. But it's strange that in a place corrupted by the dark, you not only find Ornstein corrupted himself, but you also find the Blue Sentinels. Now remember what Mothlan said. The Blue Sentinels are essentially a sham. They pretend to be upstanding and just, but really, they're just corrupt. Pretty interesting. Alright, let's see. I'm going to take off my gloves so I can get below 50% again. There has been a change from Dark Souls 1 to Dark Souls 2. In Dark Souls 1, your roll affected your iframes. In Dark Souls 2, that's not the case. Your roll speed affects your recovery time from the roll, but your iframes are actually affected by agility. You see in here, let me see, right here, agility. I have 90 agility right now. Ideally, you want to have, I believe it's 100, somewhere between 95 and 100. That's the ideal spot. It's hard to get higher than 100, although there are higher iframes than 100. It's harder. It's hard to get higher than 100 just because you have to spend so many points in adaptation or adaptability. I'm not sure if it's adaptability or adaptation. One of them. Either way, if you're good at the game and you're really good at rolling, you can get by with much less than 95. But 95 is sort of the sweet spot. And the reason it's a sweet spot is because in PvP you have to compensate for lag. And having a few extra iframes can sort of give you that lag buffer, if you will. You saw I didn't rest at the bonfire over at Targray. There's a reason for that, and that's because I didn't want to reset all the enemies in the area, because I want to be able to kill the Dragon Rider here without trouble. This is another boss that really you don't need to summon anyone for. You certainly can if you want. I'm not going to. It is a good place to get yourself summoned, though. $236 damage. As you can see, my 100% shield just pretty much takes the brunt of his attack. And he's fairly easy to dodge. Or you don't even really honestly need to dodge him all the time either if you don't want to. But he does not have very much health. He goes down quick, especially with the infused weapon here. If you did not hit the levers that I hit earlier in the level when you killed the knights, this room will actually, see this little circle I'm standing on here? It will only be this wide. This little concentric circle in the middle. The outer circles will not be there. Then the fight can get a little hard. But even then, it's not particularly difficult. You just have to be tighter in your movement. He is dead. See? Easy as that. Alright, Dragon Rider Soul. Soul of a Dragon Rider faithfully served King Vendrick. The Dragon Riders were essentially Vendrick's personal guard. Long ago, the Dragon Riders mounted worms and were feared on the battlefield for their unparalleled strength. It's strange that there is a Dragon Rider here. There's really no reason to believe that Vendrick was ever really out here. There's nothing special about this place. It's pretty basic, ruined. No reason to really believe that Vendrick was here himself, except for the existence of a Dragon Rider here. Also, something interesting to note, I should have pointed out before, the switches over there that we actually will find later in the game in another very old area. There's a few things here that are very interesting. One, the Dragon Rider. Why is there a Dragon Rider here? There's really no need for there to be. I can't think of anything when Vendrick needed here, unless Vendrick knew that Guinevere was here at some point in time. Not saying she was here at the time, but he knew that the gods had been to this place. This was a place they had rested. Remember, Vendrick was trying to discover the secrets of the soul. 2, the old knights in the area, while not one-to-one with the Knights of Anor Londo, there are a lot of similarities to the Knights of Anor Londo. The Dragon Riders also bear a lot of similarity to the Knights of Anor Londo. Now, they're not the same. They aren't the same, you know, the old Knights and the Dragon Riders are certainly not the same thing as the Knights in Anor Londo in Dark Souls 1. But rather, they seem to have been influenced by it. The old Knights especially. The old Knights appear to have been sort of a relic of the time of the gods. Another interesting thing to point out, that door over there. That door there is old. There are a few doors like it in the game, and they are all entrances to areas that are very old. Very old. Well, predating Vendrick by quite a bit. When you see those doors, you're entering someplace that is old, implying that Hyde was around long before Vendrick. So something to think about. What was he doing here? What was he seeking? Let's talk to her.
Are you from these parts? My name is Lycia. I have come to spread the art of miracles, a practice of which I am a disciple. I can see that you are well suited to comprehend their wondrous power. But the cost of it, that's for your heart to decide.
I believe she won't even talk to you if you don't have 8 faith. I don't think I showed it in this, but I bumped my faith up to 8. I do want to try to get the lightning spear later on, because it's really useful. See, here it is, but it requires 22 faith. I'm going to buy it now. Generally, I don't get the heals, even on faith characters, because they're really only useful out of combat. If you get a heal off in combat... Oh, I only have 7 faith. Maybe you don't need 8 faith. Maybe you don't need any faith. But if you get a heal off in combat, whoever you're fighting just sucks and needs to stop. Replenishment is sort of like using a life gem. Replenishes slowly over time. Caressing Prayer. This spell was recently developed and may not be an authentic miracle. Miracles are tales from the gods. What does that mean exactly? I'm not sure. I've never really done any research into that. But this one was obviously not a tale from the gods. This was a recently developed one. Personally, I think it was just put in for gameplay use so that clerics could get rid of poison if they wanted to. I don't think it really has much meaning beyond that. She also sells the Ring of Prayer. A ring blessed by the High Priest of Volgan increases faith, Volgan being where Malin is from. The clerics of the great city of Volgan are perennially entrenched in scandalous power struggles, but among them remain a few strong-willed, upstanding noblemen. Remember, Malin said that there was a lot of intrigue in Volgan, especially with the Blue Sentinels. Notice also that the Blue Sentinels are here.
Offer your...
Oops.
Just that. I'd heard awful rumors
we want her to
about this
move
place,
to
and I'm
her
afraid
next
they
place
were all
here.
true. The king, gone. The earth, ravaged. The burden on the people weighs heavy. I fear that by now, they may have scarce room in their hearts for miracles.
Misha of Lindelt. She's not a very
Why
nice
did
person.
I come here?
We'll find that out later.
Well, do I need any other reason than to spread the gospel of miracles? My preceptor always said this art should be shared with the world, and such is my only wish.
Yeah, it's not though. It's not your only wish.
Sometimes I fight the urge to pack up and go back home. It is... well, I must do this. And being out here all alone only makes this a more fitting test of my fortitude.
Alright, she says she must do this. She must.
I expected this cathedral to be bustling, but there's hardly a soul to be found here. Without any goings-on, I'll have to move soon. To a place I could help the gullible by teaching the good word.
Alright.
I expected this...
Alright, that's the end of her dialogue. She is not who she claims to be, and obviously she did a very poor job of hiding it. Actually, let's rest up here before we go down to the next area. Try to get to the next area before we end the video here. You see she disappeared. She actually went back to Majula after we exhausted her dialogue. Alicia is not a great character, but I don't think she's evil. Rather, I think she made mistakes at one time and is coming here as a sort of penance. I'm not sure she's undead. She might be, but I'm not sure that she is. Either way, I think she's here trying to redeem herself of sorts, but doesn't really know how to do that in a way that's not conniving, essentially. try to get through this area here before the video ends. This area here, I actually farmed the entire Old Knight set out of these guys. It took a really long time, and I was actually worried I was going to have to bonfire ascetic the entire area, but eventually I got it. This is really, that's the only purpose I can tell of this area, is to farm them. There's another guy down there who sees me. Some souls, and the Old Knight halberd. The Old Knight gear breaks really easily, because obviously it's really old. See, wielded by a warrior from a time so ancient that there exists no record of his endeavors, has extremely low durability. Another reason to think that these guys may come from the time of around Anne Orlando. Again, I don't think they're from Anne Orlando, but I do think they're from that time period. Come on, buddy. Come on. Actually, I'm gonna be a jerk. I'm just gonna cheese this guy. These old knights, at the very least, came from a time so long ago that they're no longer remembered. And in my opinion, that was probably at least 1,000 years. But given the similarities to Anne Orlando here, probably around the time of the gods. Another reason that makes me think that the presence of Vendrick here had something to do with the gods. I can't think of a reason he would come here besides that. I mean, his purpose could have been to come to the Lost Bastille, but there's really nothing. I shouldn't say that. There is something in Lost Bastille he might want, but I don't think that this is the way he would have to go. If Vendrick wanted to get to Lost Bastille, he could just take a boat. He was the king. And this isn't like he was some helpless undead. He could have just... Oops, did I miss an item? I think I missed an item. He could have just grabbed himself a boat and chartered his way over to the Lost Bastille. Rather, I think his purpose for being here was... Nope, I didn't miss anything. His purpose was in Heides itself. He was looking for something here. And if I were to guess, it had something to do with the gods, because he was trying to figure out a way to break the curse. Right or wrong? Got any thoughts on it? Let me know. I mean, I'm always interested to hear different sides to the story. If anyone has other ideas, just giving it as I see it as we go. I realize that some of my ideas do contradict some of the well-known Dark Souls players, but there are some ideas floating around that I think are just wrong that need to be fixed. One being that the hag in the opening video is Shannon. I don't think that's true at all. But I don't have the evidence for you yet. I feel like I should be doing more damage to these guys. I'm not sure. Maybe I just wasn't close enough. Alright, let's go upstairs. Over here is a chest. The Knight Gear. If you played Dark Souls 1, you know what the Knight Gear is. Metal armor worn by knights, standard issue for new Dragon Lake Knights. Knights have long trusted this armor for its excellent functionality. Does it mean anything that it is the exact same gear from Dark Souls 1? Probably not. They probably just didn't want to make new Knight gear. In a game like this, I think continuity of things like gear and weapons is actually more important to the developer than making new story, quote-unquote. Because players are used to it, especially for PvP. So much emphasis is on PvP in Dark Souls that I think leaving certain things the way they were in Dark Souls 1 is more intentional for gameplay than it is for lore. talk to this lady. And this is the lady.
What is it? I don't know you, and you don't know me. Things are better that way.
Pretty sweet armor.
You are an odd one.
See the helmet there too?
Normally, people keep a safe distance when they see this mask. But you... I'm called Lucatil. From the land of Mira to the far east, across the mountains.
Across them.
They say Drang Lake brims with powerful souls. And so I came to claim my share.
Well, why would you do that?
But what a strange place. Even the rumors did not prepare me.
Okay, so Lucatil's undead if the desire for powerful souls did not give that away. And there's more proof later on once we get her to remove her mask.
You are an odd one indeed. I've always made a point of avoiding people, while you've made a point of engaging me. I can see that you are mid-journey. If you require assistance, I will help you. I come from Mira, a land of knights. My sword is always ready. Don't hesitate to call upon me. Whatever happens, I won't be missed.
Personally, I think Lucatil is one of, if not the coolest NPC in the game. We learn later on that she is actually scared witless of going hollow. But here she is, facing it like a champ, willing to give you help. I want to travel back to Majula, do some leveling. And that's probably it. So I think we will call the video here. Yeah, we're getting a little long. So, later, dudes.